What's up, everyone? J-Bone back here for Smash This Podcast. Oh, man. This... just got done watching this twice. It's that good. It's that good, folks. Go check it out. We're talking about WWE 24 Kurt Angle Homecoming. Now, it's funny to go from Raw, where there's something crazy going on with the GM, Kurt Angle, and, you know, so you're in this headspace over here, like, whoa, something really big and horrible is about to happen, or something controversial, and then you're like, okay, take yourself out of that headspace, and then you get put in the real life of Kurt Angle, and him telling his story, and almost the best part of it all is while he's telling the stories, it shows all the old footage, whether it be little clips of his matches, the behind the scenes footage, and and some of it is a little grueling to watch because it does show him, get injured a couple times. I wanted to go over just some of the highlights that I jotted down on notes. It starts out with the Olympic footage of him breaking his neck in the match and then winning and stuff. That was in '96, and that's something we've seen bits and pieces of here and there. But it was cool to put everything together in one project like this. And then it went from that to showing the old training footage, which I'm assuming was part of, it said at the end, thanking Dory Funk. And I'm pretty sure that was Dory Funk in the training center training. And what's also interesting about this is that showing Angle train, but also showing guys back then like a young Edge, Mark Henry, Jason Albert, who is now Prince Albert, who is now the head of NXT. So yeah, just interesting to take that flashback and see these guys training back almost 20 years now. It's wild. Showed the debut footage, where they put him in front of his hometown crowd, and then going from that, they showed him his debut match in '99 Survivor Series, and then winning the WWF title in 2000. Crazy to see that old footage. Pretty cool. And then in between breaks in the timeline, it showed stuff from the comeback, beating, Vince, stuff for the Hall of Fame, Hunter, Stephanie, and it's interesting seeing that because it's like, whoa, we haven't seen Trips in a while. We haven't seen him since WrestleMania. And then, we see this footage, and it's like, oh yeah, they're business people too. You forget that once in a while. And then it goes back to the historical story, history part of his story. 2003 wrestling, Lesnar at No Way Out. broke his neck, and then getting that one last batch in before his first surgery from being injured in wrestling. WrestleMania 19. Lesnar versus Angle. WrestleMania 19 is one of my favorite cards overall for WrestleManias. One of my favorites, definitely. What else? Let's see. And then 2 months later, this is crazy. 2 months later, has the comeback, and then he starts talking about the painkillers and trying to get by. And, things really start unraveling for him in his personal life, affecting his work and everything. 6 months later, broke his neck again. WrestleMania 20, broke his neck again versus Eddie Guerrero. I love that match, that match against him. That was when Eddie was champ. Another one of my favorite WrestleManias back then. And then they made him GM. And it's like, GM? Huh. Interesting. He's GM now. And I forget some of this, And I know I watched it. It's just, you watch so much wrestling and some of it you retain, some of it you don't. WrestleMania 21, wrestling again. After he was completely healed, because the docs told him after 2 surgeries in 1 year, they're like, no, we're not doing that to you again. You're going to just have to suck it up. And then finally it was healed up enough. And, WrestleMania 21 versus Shawn Michaels. Another tremendous match. And then, a few years later, left. And I was still 2006. He was bitter, his drug use was out of control. And I know he had personal issues in his family and everything with Karen. And they didn't bring that up, which is fine. I didn't really expect them to. And I certainly didn't expect Karen to be a part of it. But then it was, and this is the news that came out that everybody's been freaking out about. Talked about him signing with TNA, and they have a few. They're short, but they have a few interview segments with TNA's Dixie Carter. She was the president at the time, and it makes sense. There's no. How do I say this? There's no reason to ignore that the 10 years that he was there, or whatever it was, there just isn't. Whether you like Dixie or not, whether you like TNA or not, is besides the point. Just toss that out the window. This is just a part of Angle's history, okay? And it was cool to have. Hey, I hated her too, okay? But if I felt it was really cool to have her be a part of this, to tell the story, And then they had little segments with Mickie James and Samoa Joe and later on AJ Styles, and they all had a ton of experience with Kurt while in TNA, so it makes sense, you know. So and it just to get off the, off the subject just for a second. It's like, with all these things happening in the WWE right now, the Hardys becoming broken, getting their broken gimmick, and you think later on, when Samoa Joe's been in the WWE, I hope Samoa Joe's going to be in the WWE for a good long time, not like what happened to Aries. But, they start putting compilation footage together, showing old Ring of Honor stuff. I hope they show some of the TNA stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not damaging anything. It's not hurting anyone. It's pro wrestling history, And they showed some of the old. They didn't show any of the wrestling footage. Well, they showed this talking about the stint in TNA. They just they showed the old promo stuff, the classic, the lights flickering and the rain's coming down, the classic TNA stuff. Still had the drug problems. Oh, and then they showed him at the cemetery talking about the drug problems that his whole family had. Talked about losing his sister. Yeah, that's hard. Heroin overdose. And then, talked about at the same time how he was still in a downward spiral. And that he finally got clean for his family. 4 DUIs, 5 years. That's crazy. That's crazy. I remember that stuff coming out in the news. And I remember talking about on here, on the YouTube channel, when he got clean. I was proud of him. I was proud of him as a fan who, looked up to him, admired him, and also proud of him from the standpoint of being someone who's come from a family with drug and alcohol problems. And I touch on it very rarely on here. But, my mom, miss you, Mom. She was an alcoholic all of her life. She was sober the last several years of her life. But, once you're an addict, you're always an addict. Whether you're an abusive addict or a recovering addict, you're still an addict. And she was a recovering addict still, a good chunk of the latter years of her life. But, going through her quitting drinking back, 30-some years ago now. Whew. Sorry. My point is, seeing him go through what he did and talk about it, I just have that much more respect for him. Okay? It's not just like a fan hearing the story and going, okay, because I've been there. I get it. I've seen someone in a downward spiral and come back from it. Then it shows a footage of sorry. Then it shows a footage of him pre-Mania. You know, all the Hall of Fame behind-the-scenes footage, reconnecting with people like Cena and you know, Vince and stuff, going through the speech and everything, and then after WrestleMania becoming Raw GM. You know, so it's like you come full circle with the WWE. It's such an incredible story. The the rise and fall and then rebirth of Kurt Angle. If you haven't watched it, which I'm assuming you've watched it because you're watching this, but if you haven't, I highly recommend it. Great footage, great stories. Like I said, everybody loves a comeback. You know, now whether that comeback somewhere down the road involves wrestling, I don't know. But whatever is about to happen to Kurt Angle, apparently starting next week, I can't wait to see it. I'm excited to see where this story is turning, evolving, whatever, you know, because we've seen it, you know, slowly trickle into the storylines over the last several weeks now, with Corey Graves and the cell phone calls and texts and footage, whatever, you know, it's it's Kenny Omega's DM. No, it's oh gosh. If you're Kenny Omega, the Elite Young Bucks fan, you know what I'm talking about. If not, then I don't know where to start. You have to watch several episodes of The Elite on YouTube. Alright, so that's going to do it for this. Like I said, great story. Highly recommend it. Another tremendous piece of work that you can find on the WWE Network. And that's my thoughts. Talk to me. Let me know what you thought. Did you dig it? Are you not a fan of it? I can't see anybody being negative on this, really, you know, so but whatever, you know, not everybody's a fan of Kurt Angle, so what can I tell you? So that's it for this one. Been catching up on some Flow Slam stuff lately. I do intend to go over highlights and thoughts of this past weekend stuff from Evolve 88 to 89. And there's also a show, is it PWX? I think that's what it is. PWX? PXW? Whatever it is, I forget, because it's one that I don't watch much on there. But I do want to check it out because it's got some good matches. That review is coming up either tomorrow or the next day, depending on what's all going on. And then some other stuff in the works for this channel. So, like I said, thanks again for watching. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought. That's it for this one. See you down the road. Peace.